We are the Matea Group of Keller Williams Realty. We enjoy the diverse community that we serve and the lifestyle that Maine has to offer. We'll be talking all things real estate and Maine. Welcome to the Maine Real Estate Show.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Maine Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Jeff Matea of Keller Williams Realty, the Matea Group, and JeffSellsMaine.com. Here with me is my co-host, Harrison Smith. What's going on, Harrison?
Not too much. How we doing, Jeff?
Very good, very good. Well, welcome to everybody that's joining us wherever they do their podcasts. But also just wanted to talk to everybody about our last show, a recap of affordable housing and in your visit with Patrick Thornton from Phoenix Title. So we learned a lot there, and recap that.
Yeah. So I think to start with affordable housing, it's a topic we hear a lot about. It's in the news, I feel like, every day. And I hope people can understand from that show some of the complexities to affordable housing. In an inflationary environment, high demand market, affordable housing is not always easy to make work. It's going to require a lot of potential solutions, a lot of collaboration. It's not a, idea today, execution tomorrow kind of proposition. It is going to be a longer term solution that requires everybody in the industry working together. So it's something we'll keep updated on. We'll continue to follow, but it's a big deal. And then with Patrick, it was great to catch up with Patrick from Phoenix Title in Portland. They're a great partner of ours. We do a lot of closings with Patrick, helping people understand what a title company does. I think title companies are not necessarily in every state. We get a lot of out-of-state buyers in this marketplace. Right. We'll talk about that.
Have an attorney versus a title. Yeah.
Yeah. So the title company concept can be a little bit foreign to some people, and also understanding deeds and title and why title insurance, I think, is so important, because what I love about what Patrick does is he's always educating. And that's why I thought he'd be such a great resource to share with people what they do, why they do it, and what the benefits of title insurance are.
When you're exactly right. I mean, right. The media leads with interest rates, inflation, buying and selling, and doesn't really get into, it's kind of a bland topic to talk about title. So it's nice to showcase that and deliver what they do, and, making sure that they're researching and finding if there's any defects or issues with title, because records and stuff can be lost, forged, etc. So there's a number of facets there that plays a big part in the actual closing of real estate transaction.
Absolutely. There's a lot that goes into a real estate closing. There's a lot of factors that impact the transaction. I think everybody gets stuck on interest rates and all this stuff, but really there is a lot that goes into a closing, a lot that goes into making sure that the buyer and the seller get out of this what they need. And it's important to understand, as we keep saying, real estate's a team sport. And these are some of the team members we work with to make sure our clients have a great experience.
Yeah, so we have a great show today. We're going to dive right into the top 5 trends in the market. Everybody asks us, like, what's going on? Where's inventory? Where's interest rates? What's going? Where are people coming from? Which leads into that migration to Maine, which we saw a great infographic regarding where people are moving from to join us here in Maine. That was in Maine Biz, I believe, showing each state, and then that trend from 2021, 2022. And I'm interested to see what 2023 looks like, and how that, does that still follow the lines there. So let's dive right into the top 5 trends, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So the purpose of this, I think, is more so to help people understand the local impacts. We talk all the time, real estate is very much local. Mm-hmm. Even when you look at statewide information, sometimes it can be a little bit misleading to maybe the marketplace that you're in. So I thought it'd be good to take this article. I'm pretty sure this article was in Bangor Daily News a few weeks ago.
Right.
And just outline, what people are talking about, and give you some color as to what we're seeing here locally. And then we'll do a state of the market show here in a couple of weeks to bring people up to current on what's going on. But with that, the top trend, and this one I think is not just statewide, it's probably countrywide right now.
Yeah, but national for sure.
Number of listings continues to fall. So inventory continues to remain very tight, very low. And we're seeing a 50% or more reduction across the state.
Yeah, it's incredible to see that year over year. And we thought, with all the news that, the market would suffer. And really the suffering is more that there's just not enough out there for the demand that's created. So the demand is just driving pure economics.
Correct.
Demand is out producing, we'll call it out producing supply. So prices are going up. They're still going up, and we're seeing multiple offers. So lack of inventory is actually creating a kind of false narrative of where the market's headed. There's probably going to be a correction at some point in time, but we're still withstanding, and people are getting, above asking offers. We'll dive into that in a little bit, but if you list your house now, you're getting a lot of activity on your home as long as it's priced right. And the right homes are actually still seeing no inspections. Buyers are gobbling up what they can. I actually talked to a broker just before the show up north, Central Maine. There's very little inventory. So if there's anything that is anywhere near, checks 7 out of the 10 boxes for a buyer, they're picking it up because they need a home. They can't find what they're looking for. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it when you mentioned the false narrative. People right now, I think, are seeing the headlines and feeling like this is all interest rate driven. And it really isn't. There are still so many buyers in the marketplace because, again, the national interest rate or the historical interest rate average is 7.8%. We're still below the historical average. I bought my first house at 7.5%. I know people that bought their first houses in the teens.
Yeah.
So it's not just interest rate driven. We are at the point where the demand for housing is outstripping the amount of supply available. And that's been the case since 2020 and continues to be the case. And really, if there was more inventory, there would be more movement. There just isn't because we don't have the inventory.
Yeah. And what's crazy too is the number of folks, and I talk to them daily, that say, well, the market's not great. Well, where are you hearing that from? Because actually we put, X number of homes under contract in the last week and above asking offers and sight unseen offers, inspections waived. It's still happening. So there's pockets, and I get it. Maybe they, watched the news on one given day when interest rates went over 7 and the market kind of slipped, but I get it. Some of the national media will say, right, prices have declines. Where? Yeah. Yes, on a national average, when you factor in all of the states and cities where the market went so crazy, people were bidding 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 over asking to get a home, that obviously there's a correction. Well, then when you measure that, and it's again the average, or we talk the median in comparison, but if you're Cumberland County, you're not experiencing that. You're seeing actually still price appreciation in a number of areas, many of the cities in and around Portland, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to point out the point you just made. When you look across the country, there are areas that are seeing significant reductions in price. Austin, Texas, Denver, Colorado. And the issue is those markets didn't get overinflated price-wise because of the economics of it. They got overpriced because money was cheap and people wanted to go there.
Yeah.
So people were in some cases making crazy offers. They didn't necessarily have to, because they so badly wanted to be in those places for some reason, whether it's quality of life or work. Yeah. Whereas in Maine, we have real supply and demand issues. In other places like Austin, we've got a ton of new construction in big neighborhoods. They don't have the same inventory problems that we had. You just had people that were coming in with very, very low interest rates coming from markets where they had a lot of cash on hand because they sold something else.
Absolutely.
And willing to pay insane prices. And that's where you're seeing markets adjust.
And no pun intended, but they were playing with house money. We talked about how people saw that crazy appreciation in the stock market or their business or what have you. Their house appreciated astronomically in the 2 years during COVID, that they were already, I've got 200, 300,000 more than I ever thought my house was worth. Yeah. I know I'm buying into a crazy market, and I think it's going to continue to go up. So we're going to stay here for the next cycle, 10, 15 years. That 200, 300,000 of play money, it's not play money, it's real.
It is.
But they saw that, wow, I mean, I only painted my house and it's worth $200,000 more in the 5 years I've lived in it. Yeah, I take that out and buy the next one, and we'll stay here for a while. And maybe it happens again, maybe it doesn't, but it's just on paper, and they're just making that move. But again, their lifestyle, where they wanted to be, was the driver, not, oh my God, I'm paying more for this house. Someone paid only $300,000 6 years ago, and I got to pay $600,000-700,000 for it. Well, no, I got also $200,000 to $300,000 more for my house. So it's just that, domino, that leapfrog into the next piece. And that happens. I mean, that's what happens over cycles anyway. Mm-hmm. When you bought your house 20, 30, 40 years ago for $50,000 to $100,000, well, surely now you can't find a home under $300,000, it seems. And was the next one going to be, there's no homes under $400,000, and going, and so on and so on.
Yeah. And inflation kind of begets inflation. So,
right.
To your point, you got all that extra money on your house. You're not afraid to pay more for the next house. And what we always see is that when people have cash reserves and confidence in where things are going, they become a lot less worried about price.
They consume.
And exactly, they consume, they spend, and they're not afraid to invest. And I think for some people, because they wanted to be in these areas for whatever reason it was, they were willing to pay a price that maybe the market didn't require. And now we're seeing those markets come back to reality. Not an issue here, certainly somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So, the second trend, fewer homes sold above list price. We're seeing that at 27%, which is down from, is it down 15%?
Down 15%.
Down 15%. So I don't know that we're seeing that here locally. Again, this is a statewide figure. So I'd, challenge that a bit. In pockets, I know that that's definitely not the case. Sure. Many of your homes in Portland are selling above asking, and still a larger proportion are expecting that. Even so, that I've seen listings that may not have gotten an offer right away because buyers actually, with feedback that we've received on some listings, said, oh, well, I would pay list price, but I'm not going higher, or I can't go much higher. That's out of our budget. If I have to compete, I'm out.
Yep.
And then in some instances, right, we didn't have an offer on a home, or we only had the one. Mm-hmm. And, or we had to encourage that person, well, just make whatever offer you can, give your best, put your best foot forward. And they were able to pick up a home at asking, or maybe slightly above. But isn't that interesting that people would kind of pump the brakes if, geez, 400, I don't know, because 400 might mean I have to offer 425 or 435 to get it. I'm just not even going to offer. And so some people are a little skittish because of that, thinking like, I'm not going to keep driving this. I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And we're just encouraging people, like, you just make your offer, make your best offer. If the house checks many of your boxes, go. Yep. Don't think you've got to wait for a price reduction, because then, right, in the buyer sentiment, I'm going to wait. If they lower the price, maybe more buyers come in and then it gets bid back up. We've seen that happen in the past as well.
Yeah. And I think home buyers have been trained that whatever they're looking at, they need to assume they're going to have to pay more for the house than the list price. So when you list a price at $400,000, if a buyer's budget is $400,000 and they see that at $400,000, they think, well, I can pay for that. Yeah. But unfortunately, I know it's going to sell for more because they've been trained that way. So they tend to back off, thinking it won't work for them anymore. And
it's sort of that messy middle, right? Because then, well, the house needs work, or, we've got to do an inspection, and I don't know if we can do an inspection and still negotiate. So we're in that messy middle where it's just, again, you don't know. It takes two to tango. So you've got to make an offer. And we always say, right, it takes a buyer and a seller to agree to terms. Buyer just put forth their terms. Seller has already demonstrated a term, the price. Can we meet somewhere?
Yep.
And you don't know until you make an offer, right?
Yep.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I was just going to say,
take a shot and see what happens.
Your offer will never get accepted if you never send it in.
We are under contract on a number of them as buyer agents on properties that we did get below asking.
Yep. And
so that is happening too, which then leads into headline trend number 3, more price reductions, which is 19% are experiencing a price reduction, which is up 7%. So we are seeing that, maybe it's probably a combination of a few things. Sellers that still think it's the market of old, whether that's 6 months to a year ago, and well, let's test it. Let's see. I've got a great home. Maybe someone will pay a premium for, and agents might say, well, right, you ever been to an auction? If you were to put it a little bit lower, we'll find out and the market will tell. At the same time, you might feel bad as an agent saying, well, I don't want to leave money on the table for my client. I want to get them the best price and terms. But we've also seen, it's kind of dialing it back a little bit, within a certain percentage, it could get bid up. My goal is to get more people through your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so that they do see that you've got a great property, and perhaps they will pay more than what we have it listed at. I can't guarantee that. However, the more people that come through, draw that pyramid at the bottom, there's more buyers at a lower price, and they'll bid it up. Likely, can't say that for sure. However, if we price it too high, we might not have as many buyers. Might not have any buyers if people aren't seeing your home, and then we're lowering the price, and then we're telling the market, oh, is there something wrong, or did they overprice it? And now we're backpedaling to try to get buyers back into your home, and we'd like to avoid that. We want to get them. It's like you got one shot to make a first impression.
Exactly.
And really that first week, 2 weeks, it might even be less now. But with lack of inventory, enter the market so that you're in it, not just on it. We like to say.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. And I do think that, the strategy around pricing property has come back to understanding not just what the house might be worth, but also how it looks comparative to the competition that is out there. And I know that's something you've been preaching kind of within the team is, we need to be thinking about how best to present the house to ensure it gets the most eyes. And when you look at these last 2 points, are we seeing fewer homes sell above list price? Maybe not necessarily fewer homes, but maybe they're not selling for the same amount over, which gets into, that means pricing is more important.
Exactly.
And then when you look at price reductions, are we seeing some price reductions? Absolutely. As many as the trend says in this area, probably not. But again, it gets back to the strategy of pricing. We need to make sure we're getting the most exposure to a home in the best possible light so our clients can get what they need.
Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be people that come into play, whether it's an agent or the consumer, the seller that maybe a little bit late to the game. They got their market analysis a couple months ago and they still think that's the price. And you've got to revisit and actually see what the competition is now. Sadly, some agents and consumers are looking back to historical 6 months to a year ago's numbers. Well, what's happening today? And we saw that shift with the interest rates. So you've got to play that and watch. It's better to come in a little light with insurance that it could get bid up. I got to get people into your home. They can't buy it if they're not willing to go see it. And they're looking on their phones at value, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and amenities, location, obviously too. However, it's again, like if there's a number to compare against, they're looking at and what you might've paid. What do I get for my money? Is this worth it? Do I see myself here? And then those boxes get checked. Yep. And they go from there. So I've got to get them off their couch or their laptop to come to your house to see it, such that they see that value, not just on the pretty pictures online.
Yeah. And I think one thing we're seeing, and you can elaborate on this, is I think for in a tight inventory market, I think sellers are now more conscious of, will this close versus how much they're willing to pay, because they don't want to miss potentially their one shot to get their next house by having something that drags on or delays or maybe doesn't close because of something that comes up.
So I really think that's where having a strong agent, a local lender, and just having all your ducks in a row so that the qualifications, you make sure that, the buyer's pre-qualified. Even your agent, your listing agent should be calling the lender to just check in, right? Are they a really solid buyer? What might hold us up? And will this property appraise? Inspection contingency, et cetera. Because, sellers are saying, okay, in a multiple offer situation, it really comes out A, B, C, and D. It's not always price. It's the certainty in the next 30 to 45 days. Is my home going to close? Because every time we open up the newspaper or scroll online or turn the news on, could something impact, Saudi Arabia decreases production of oil. That, creates a little riff in things. And so financials change, and then people get worried about the economy or their job. And then buyers could backpedal if the stock market drops. It's like, where is their money coming from for their down payment? All of that, you've got to watch that. And so a lot of things come into play when people pay close attention to the media.
Absolutely.
It's out of our control.
Absolutely. And this ties nicely into the fourth trend, which is homes are taking longer to sell. We're seeing roughly 50 days on market, which is actually up 29 days from where it was, because we were seeing a lot of things close quickly. Yeah. I don't think we're necessarily seeing days on market stretch out quite that far here locally, but we're definitely seeing things take a little bit more time, because in some cases the seller needs more time.
Well, and I'd also say that indicates that there's less cash, or the cash is already purchased, a fair amount of that. I mean, there's still cash in the market, but then you're seeing more financing. You're seeing more FHA. RD is coming in, the USDA loans, VA even. So it's taking time, Appraisals are happening versus the appraisal waiver, which caused properties to close quicker, even if they were financed. So that shortened the craziness of 6 months to a year ago. Was a couple of those facets and factors of offers kind of washed away and shortened that window. But I'm also seeing, people maybe price too high. They've got to lower it so that you lose a week or two there, which is obviously impact that. And then buyers too, they wake up each day wondering, well, what's the interest rate? I'm listening to the media. What's the rate? Maybe another house will come on. We're starting to see more inventory, even though, number of listings has continued to fall, yet now we're in the season where more inventory is coming in. So people, see a house, maybe that's not perfect. Let's sleep on it. Open up your laptop, get an alert on your phone, a new listing came in. Well, let's go see that one. And then you forget about the other one. So we also have to make sure that we're letting sellers know, The tendency was people looked at 3 to 8 homes before they bought one in the past. Maybe they buy the first one they see, yet now it's causing a little bit of pause. Maybe I'll wait and see another home until they see that one get away. Some buyers still, let's wait and see another one. Oh, lost that one. Oh, shoot. Okay. Maybe another one will come up. And so that's creating more time on the market too.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
Well, and I think you raise a good point too, is I think that, what we're measuring against numbers, a lot of numbers from last year, which were, I would say, artificially low, because if you're up 29 days from 50, that means we're closing things in 21. That's not standard. The market used to be 30 to 45 was standard.
Yeah. So, So cash influenced that a lot. Appraisal waivers, obviously, people moved quickly. Some lenders, got those appraisal waivers and moved quick to get their buyers to win out in a multiple offer situation.
Yeah. So I would say, anybody watching, I would say that, are we seeing these trends specifically in Cumberland, York County? To a certain extent, maybe not to the same extent as we're seeing them statewide, but we're also measuring off some artificially low bases because the market was just that much different last year.
Yeah. So, shifting gears to playing into that though, we know that there was a cool article in Maine Biz, and I saw this infographic on Instagram, was the migration to Maine, and some of the statistics was really cool. I saw, case in point was one in four transactions were from an out of state buyer, and that moved to 1 in 3 during COVID, and it's back to 1 in 3 now.
Yeah.
We're seeing people, I think it's Massachusetts is number 1, makes sense. New Hampshire, number 2. Yes, our neighbors. So they like to flock to Maine. They've vacationed here. There's movement, and we'll talk about why we see that movement.
Sure.
But then to see Florida, number 3, New York 4, California, number 5. Little different climate as opposed to Maine. But, some of the businesses are saying, well, relocate. We'll pay you to work there, and you can work from home and be remote, and maybe still get paid as if you were living in California, or maybe cut costs a little bit. But we'll talk about that in a little bit too, as the kind of the economy, the commercial aspects. Those rankings have also been consistent. So 2021, 2022 are very similar. Maybe one, I think Texas was in 2021's number.
It was, then quickly fell out.
Then it moved out. And I don't know what, again, another interesting climate difference to come from hot to cold.
Yep. And we saw Connecticut move into the top 5 in 2021, but I think people were kind of escaping bigger cities at that point a little bit too. And we've seen some consistency the last couple of years. But what I find interesting is, I think most people think of Florida. People are moving from Maine to Florida, right? There's definitely more people going from Maine to Florida, but it's surprising how many are also coming back.
Right.
What I've always found fascinating is when I used to travel the country in my past job, I used to run into people everywhere that had a tie to Maine, whether it was family or they vacationed here, or they, everybody seems to have some tie to this. Sure. It's a big state in terms of land, little state in terms of people. Yeah. But I run into people that have ties to this area. And I think over the last few years, when people are looking at quality of life and cost of living, I think they looked at Maine and went, wow, I wouldn't mind returning there.
Yeah. And some of our larger companies did an excellent job recruiting. They saw the writing on the wall that we've got to attract people, and there's some talented folks. It's the cost of living, the lifestyle is much better. And these people really appreciated that. So, a lot of folks that we talk to would say, came to Maine, or geez, I'd never been to Maine, but wow, it's really cool. There's a lot to do in such a little area. And I'm still close to Boston. I can fly to New York, Philadelphia, Florida, just a quick flight, and then take it from there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with all the national press that Portland's gotten over the last couple of years, Biddeford's gotten a lot of it. And I think that all that national press has taken away this great hidden secret that we had here in Maine, and given the whole country what we do up here. And that's also drawn people, I think, because they see the quality of life and the balance they can get that, you can't get that balance in Los Angeles or Orlando or Miami. Yeah. You get a much different lifestyle. But for some people, whether they've got kids or maybe they're thinking about retiring, maybe getting away from that kind of hustle and bustle and the loudness of these cities is attractive, given the fact that Maine's got a lot to offer.
And then there was the thought too, is these folks moved here, they kind of escaped, they went to the ruralness, and, a lot of people picked up land, were building houses, just kind of escaping. They had been here on vacation, thought, well, let's get the heck out of the cities, so, the big, New York, most of the Texas, California, and came to Maine, and then stayed put because their employer said, we're at work remotely. That's fine. We thought maybe some would return, kind of miss the hustle and bustle of New York City when COVID subsided and improved, our immunity to it and vaccines and stuff. But we didn't see that. No. There's a handful, but not the majority that we thought, and they've stayed put.
Yeah. So the population influx really maxed out in 20 and 21, which makes sense. Yeah, people were coming here to get out of the cities and try to pick up some space. And then we thought in 2022 and 2023, when things maybe got back to normal, people would miss the cities and they want to go back to them. But I think you nailed it. I think in a remote world environment, people are happy to work from anywhere. Yeah. They want to go where the quality of life is. They can still make their California wage and live in Maine, which is certainly to their benefit. And our quality of life is tough to beat. So we're not there's definitely people that have gone back, but we're not seeing any sort of large scale trend where even a small piece of that group that came here in 20 and 21 is going back. Yeah. It's been one off here and there. We're not seeing the trend out, which we all expected we'd see.
And so then, I know you're the commercial guy. So if we go back, 2020, let's look like April, May, June, we saw hospitality, we saw office space desolate. Almost like, holy crap. I mean, a lot of those applied for the PPP money.
Right.
And then there was the concern of, well, right, are people going to go back to the office? But then repurpose of space happened, and tell us more about what that transitioned to and why now you can't find commercial space.
Yeah, the commercial market is very tricky right now.
Yeah,
and there is inventory out there. A lot of it is around the perimeter. A lot of it is older, and a lot of it is maybe potentially single or special purpose that doesn't necessarily work as well. So when you think about the core tenants of commercial real estate, it was always kind of retail, industrial, and office. Those are the big things,
right?
Retail, obviously, in 2020 was under major pressure. In 2021, it was under some pressure. We're seeing retail come back because I still do think, and we're big believers in it, that small business matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of people took the opportunity maybe during lockdown to maybe learn a skill, come up with a craft, hatch a business plan.
Right.
And many of them now are coming back out and grabbing up those smaller spaces.
And that ingenuity and desire to like call it your own. I mean, we even see people say like, my dream was always to own my own business. And so I finally took the plunge, and that's happening a lot more. Mainers they have that in their blood that, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's really fascinating to see. And you hear of people that, they started from a basement or a garage doing odds and ends, and like all of a sudden this flourished into a big thing. And, now they're on the internet and their business is basically worldwide. And they're delivering, stuff from widgets everywhere. So it's really cool to see. Yet then space became, oh crap, I thought this would be all open, and you can barely find anything. There's very low inventory on the commercial side too. And so that's increased pricing. Yeah.
And what's interesting too is on the office space side, we expected we'd see a lot of office space that kind of sits or gets repurposed. And a lot of times it's getting cut up into smaller spaces and leased to several people.
Yeah.
In some cases, it may be getting repurposed into something that's more production oriented, because really the driver of all this has been industrial. Everybody wants real estate that is revenue generating. And for most companies, office is overhead. That's where your support staff works.
Right.
But your industrial space where you're doing your assembly or your distribution or your last mile distribution, that's where the money is made.
Yeah.
So that's where the focus has been. Industrial space is almost impossible to come across right now. And on top of all that, you've had some of these big companies, the Downs announced that Costco is coming. You've seen some of these bigger companies where Maine's now on their radar. They're coming in. Well, when they come in, a lot of businesses come in alongside of them or around them, or the people that have moved here have taken their businesses from wherever they were and they've put them here. Amazon's been sniffing around Maine for a little while to look at a last mile delivery facility. So we're seeing the bigger companies go, oh yeah, Maine's actually a pretty attractive market. We should be there. And oh, by the way, we've got a lot of employees who live there now too. So we can really kill two birds with one stone.
That's exactly right. Well, yeah. And speaking of small business, we had the opportunity to sit down at Maine's original brew pub, Gritty's, right on 4th Street in Portland, to have a chat with Herb Ivey, the captain over at WBLM. And we'll share that with you.
I know you're passionate about music, but to get your entire company to come in here to come vote for these matchups, man, wow.
It's amazing. Thanks so much for having us.
This is all the team.
This is everyone, yeah.
This is great.
We are at the Town Square Media WBLM studios in Herb Ivey's office, which has a heck of a collection of gold, silver, platinum records, and everything under the sun. Autographed guitar.
You work with a lot of businesses and things that support the station. How vital is it to support the small businesses, and how important are small businesses to you?
They're everything. Not just they're part of the fabric of our community. Without small businesses, I mean, just look on this block that we're here. There's no big gigantic businesses here. When a community loses that, the lack of small businesses changes the entire fabric of a city. So like Maine is one big small town, right? So it has to be supported by for small businesses. So I'm so passionate about that. I mean, we get to work with so many, big, huge businesses, but I mean, all kinds. The good stuff is small businesses. They're, owner-owned and operated. It is their livelihood. So for us, to be able to work with them and help them grow is really super rewarding for us.
This is the ticket, the stub of the Cumberland County Civic Center. Elvis was to play on August 17th, 1977 here in Portland. And unfortunately, it passed away the night before this concert was to happen.
Oh, boy.
Here's the original ticket, and well intact, and some history there.
Forbes has named the 30 prettiest cities in the country Portland was number 15. What do you think about that?
I mean,
it should be one.
Yeah, it should be number one, right?
we are so lucky. We forget about that. You know, we forget that we have the water 2 blocks away from us. That,
And all the
you
culture,
know, the
too.
mountains.
Yeah.
We have.
The
I
great
mean, in terms of
culture,
quality of life,
Music,
you know,
art.
is
Exactly.
unparalleled. Like, it's great to come down here in the summertime and everyone's here vacationing, and you're like, oh yeah, we get to live
we
here.
live here where
Year
people
round.
vacation.
Year
Yeah.
round. You know, and so in terms of a destination, in terms of bringing, I mean, it's a great place to work. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place if you like local beer.
Craft beer. It's like craft beer.
yeah.
City.
So it's incredible what Portland has and the whole Lower Maine have become.
Sure. Final question: what do you think about the food scene in Portland?
My gosh, I'll tell you, my belly likes it. We moved downtown. Part of the reason was to be able to walk to all these amazing places. It's absolutely amazing how, you know, remember it was just one place, and then it was just Street and Company, and now we've got 15 James Beard nominees coming from the state,
Incredible.
from like, you know, places I've never even heard of yet. So I'm gonna have to quit my job and just go tour and go eat for a year. Take a sabbatical. Yeah, I'm gonna need a wingman.
Eat, entertainment, museums.
Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. The creative economy here is, you know, we talk about small businesses, but like we talk about creative economy, the arts, and, you know, I would put restaurants in, you know, in that, in kind of a wide definition of what creative economy is. Like, that is such a huge part of the personality of Maine now. It's just amazing. When I got here in '85, we were just starting to transition from vinyl to these things called compact discs, and now it's just one giant iPod. You know, it's one giant database, which we can call up on my phone or on my personal computer and start playing music at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But we would never do that. We'd never abuse our privilege. So when I got here, CDs, we used to play reel-to-reels. Instead, when we talk about copy, cutting, and pasting, we would literally do that with a tape, with reel-to-reel. Literally cut with a razor blade, tape it together. So, and now it's all, of course, it's all done digitally.
I have a question for Jeff. Jeff, do you see like the landscape changing as how many people are actually relocating from other states to come and take advantage of the things that?
Oh, it's incredible. I think we saw during COVID. Pre-COVID, it was 1 in 4 out-of-staters bought a home in Maine. Now it's 1 in 3, and they've come here vacationing and then just said, "Well, what the hell am I doing here? Let's stay here."
Yeah.
And so a lot of folks that came and rented have come back, and they've gone on vacation and said, "Well, why don't I own? I'll still, if I have to go back home for work or kids in school, I'm still going to keep this place and I'll rent it when I'm not here." And some just said, "No, I'm just going to stay." And we have 2 or 3 clients from California, Michigan,
Right.
so some states that
It's
you
not
didn't
even just
really
Massachusetts
see.
or New Hampshire. It's like
Yeah,
all over.
we always saw like Massachusetts, New Hampshire,
Right.
Connecticut was the common, Vermont,
Right.
What's been
Colorado.
what's been
sometimes.
the recipe for success for you and this crew?
It's the follow-up. It's the, delivering great service, making sure that people are satisfied with how we treat them in the process. And then it's the follow-up. It's not just after the closing, you get a commission check, right? There's a reward. We stay in touch. So we're getting the referrals after the fact.
Mhm.
There's a process to get to closing, but then there's an after. So we don't go away. We're here to help. Do you need a babysitter? Like, do you need to know where, different
find
things? Like,
things.
of course, you can open
Jeff
a bank
Mateo
account
will
and everything.
babysit your children.
No, I don't think he's so.
I would,
dirty.
yeah. I would, yeah, depending on the age. Well, so Herb Ivy, the captain, obviously has all of our spots on WBLM, and has been the captain for 35 plus years.
My first job out of college in 1985.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Wow.
So kind of crazy. So very, very lucky. Have loved working with Jeff and with Danny and all telling your story. I'm sure there's a lot of people in your business where you get it done and then that's it.
There's few that follow up. It's
Transactional.
right. Yeah, this is all about a person and persons and relationships. So we know that carries forward, and we've taken many, classes and gone to trainings where it was about the residual of their family grows, or they know friends and coworkers that need to buy or sell. they refer you. It's much easier to receive referrals from trusted friends than to go try to market to attract new people that don't know you yet. And it's like a pretty crowded space that there's thousands of real estate agents. So to just earn that from your past clients, to tell everything about you, the raving fan, you know, like yourself, to shout from the rooftops what a great job the Matea Group has done to help you buy or sell. It speaks volumes.
Especially here in Maine, especially in New England.
Exactly. And that level of trust, the credibility that comes with, we had a great experience. They're going to trust that friends.
It's an intense, like buying, selling a home.
It's big moment.
It's big money. It's big
It
emotion.
can be stressful. Yeah, there's a lot
Like
of
you
emotion.
got, like you as a, like you're an even keel.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, much of the team is as well. So we take a relaxed approach. We can be as aggressive as you need, but we also take a relaxed approach because we know what people are going through. We've been there. A lot of the team members have bought and sold properties personally themselves. So they know that we've been in your shoes to know what that feels like, what that means when I've got to go to work the next day and I've got all the stuff I've got to think about in a transaction. Well, we take a lot of that off your plate so that the experience is smooth. And, you know, even behind the scenes, our operations staff are handling paperwork. And so it's not just the agent in the field. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes to make sure our lenders and title companies and insurance companies that all need stuff from our client are getting it timely so that, again, there's not like hiccups along the way that closing got delayed because, and we've also done over 300 transactions each year. So it's that level of experience that it just happens time and time again. You go through it each and every day. So that this one time that you might do it every 4 to 7 years doesn't feel like, oh my God, this is like such a hassle. No, it's
to know
pretty
you're
simple.
everybody, all the signatures up here, the people who are actually here in the studio. Different type of market now than a couple of years ago with interest rates, with inventory. How do you all approach that now?
It hasn't changed. It's we say back to basics. We never really left basics. It's still keeping those relationships going and talking to people and communicating. We say real estate is a contact sport, meaning more like we gotta get belly to belly, eye to eye with folks. Pick up the phone, call, text, message them.
I got
so
a letter
that
from
they
you
know.
folks.
That's right.
I wanted to sell my house.
And you know, so social media's prevalent. Video, a lot of folks are you know out there and putting themselves out there. It still doesn't remove that it's a people business. And it's all relationship driven. So the Zillows and the Redfins can't take away that, right? Grab a beer, an iced tea with a friend and talk real estate.
It's kind of like us with like satellite radio. It's like you can listen to Leonard Skinner anywhere, but when you listen to it on BLM, there's, you know, it's with people you know, it's with me and Celeste, you're listening with it. It's just similar kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
And we love what we do too. I mean, that's the thing is I think that, you know, you don't see in some of the marketing, well, we hear it from you on the radio, but you might not see in some marketing pieces is the passion, the excitement that agents have for what they do. I mean, this is, like I said, a full-time, you know, this is their career. So when they show up to an appointment to work with a buyer or seller, those people get that feeling and know their heart's in this and they care about you and what you mean to them buying and selling a home and what we're doing for that particular client. And we've helped a lot of people move to the area, move out of the area for various reasons. There's some personal aspects to that leaving a home that was the place you lived for 40 years or where you raised your family or, you know, got divorced and had to maybe put that emotion aside, you know, that experience aside.
You guys really are part of people's lives.
Absolutely.
Well, the biggest investment.
That's right.
It's a huge financial move.
It's amazing.
It's often the biggest one for everyone.
Well, you guys have done such a good job in terms of being top of mind. You know, you've got a great crew, you got a great team here, but, you know, when people, I can't tell you how many times when I meet people, like, you know, they want to talk about the Stones and they want to talk about, ZZ Top and then Jeff Matea. And so you're right in there with the Stones and ZZ Top.
Herb and I were just making a pitch last week to a medical supply manufacturer. And the reason they wanted BLM was because you do Jeff Matea.
That darn jingle. I can't get that jingle out of my head.
Can you make me a jingle? No, I only do one jingle, it's Jeff Matea jingle, but amazing, man. Incredible.
Well, we appreciate all that you do.
Love working with you. So happy for your success. Looking forward to more success. You got a great leader. And so just I'm glad we could do this. Let's do this more often next year. So cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, so thanks again to Herb Ivy of WBLM. You recognize him as the captain, 102.9. That was awesome to just sit down and chat with him about the, local businesses and see everything that he has and kind of the artifacts of the folks that have visited the station. And 50 years, WBLM celebrating 50 years. That's wild.
And he's been so plugged into the economy of Maine, the music scene of Maine, the arts and entertainment segment of Maine, that it's like sitting there with the oracle of all the history of it. It's like a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's like the national treasure. Yeah. And we're lucky to have him here in Portland, Maine.
Yeah,
so
super passionate about the area.
We thank everybody for tuning into the Maine Real Estate Show. That's pretty much a wrap. We had some great stats, and thanks again. Tune in next time to where you join us for your podcast, the Maine Real Estate Show and the MaineRealEstateShow.com. And you can find us on jeffsellsmaine.com as well as 207-553-2605 with any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks again for listening.